everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Darkness Falls 7 Days to Die. This is the B28 version of Darkness Falls, I believe. Yeah, let's just go with that. Um, I'm gonna change it to 28 Days to Die. um, okay, you can't. You'll be able to join the server on the default with no password or anything. This could take 10 to 12 minutes to load, maybe a little longer. It's hard to say.
Good evening. Good morning to all. Thought you were alive again.
favorite overalls for 7 days to die. He does a really good job, and he's tenacious about it.
Hello.
Hey, Blue. How's it going?
It's going good. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's
Give me. Oh, give me 5 seconds. I'll be right back.
okay.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I need a drink before my started coughing and hacking.
Yeah, I'm making coffee now. So how's things been going?
Pretty good. Slow. Nothing new really. I got the processor and the second cooler coming in.
Right on.
Those will be here by the end of the week. I can update everything once they get here, but until I get more money for RAM, I can't really do anything with that server yet.
Yeah, the only thing that I think that can be done with the Space Engineer server is to just use all the same mods and just do a wipe.
No, I already have the test server and the test pack already figured. I'm just waiting for my designated time that I said I would do it.
Oh, I see.
Like the test server's done. The test pack is, as far as I know, ready. I just, like I said, told everyone that the wipe would be coming. I just hadn't gotten there yet. You get one? Because I made that announcement like a month ago.
Yeah, with me a lot has happened. Well, this Darkness Falls mod is freaking scary.
I've got two. Basically, all I've got is 16 gigs of RAM on 4 sticks.
Well, I can send you that 32 gigs.
It has to be DDR4.
Oh, yeah, this is DDR3.
That's the thing. The only server it would benefit is the main server, but it's got so much RAM that that's not the bottleneck. I have 2 new Xenon processors coming in. Guess how much I paid for those ones? And the cooler altogether.
You probably got a really good deal on them, knowing you.
About $32.
Oh, shit.
They're not as expensive as full scale, like if I bought i7 Intel processors or AMD insert name here kind of thing. But that'll give me an additional 16 cores. Are they quad core or 8 core? I think I chose quad core. I have to look at the eBay listing. Yes, I am human. Damn it. Can you Google? I've got my thing so it keeps no trackers. I have to sign into all my browsers every time.
Yeah, I usually have it set up something like that myself.
So these ones have 3.5 gigahertz base clock. And they boost up to 4.0. So they're going to be faster, more efficient. Let me just run down the list. It's got. Oh, sorry. It goes to 3.8 versus the 3.6, so we get 2 more gigahertz. It does have less level 1 cache per CPU, but it's more efficiently used. If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How the it's going from like DDR2, DDR4 kind of. It's 2 whole generations of Xenon processors more. And guess what the end of service date on these versus the old ones is
I wouldn't have a clue.
June 30th, 2022.
Oh, wow.
So they launched quarter 2, 2016. So they're only 7 years old at most. But these processors start with the low-end DDR for these is 1600 megahertz. So I got faster RAM. Quad core. So I got 16 threads, which I think the other server is 2.8. Where are they 2.4s? I have to look. Ultra VNC viewer. Let me log in quick. Okay. Okay, the old ones are 2.8s. So I have half as many cores to assign. But the Space Engineers didn't need more cores, it needed more speed. And basically what we're doing is, by expanding the speed by, even if I'm running them at base clock, they're only 1 gigahertz slower than the max boost clock. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, in doing so, they're faster and more. How should I describe this? Because they're faster and more efficient, and they're. Everything about them's faster, which makes the. Like, when I get a giant spike, like right now, one of the cores, one of the threads, is running at 80% of the time, and it's corresponding. Let me verify that. 1, 2. Okay, so 11 and 12. I think it starts at 0. Yep. So 11 and 12 are running at 110% usage combined. Where the rest of the cores together is 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's say 8, 9-ish cores are being used for any amount of it. The rest of them are like doing minor tasks in the background, spiking up occasionally, even when it's actually loaded but with people. But we're having lag issues and stuff like that is because it's capping out one of a single CPU core in speed. So by me raising the clock speed by that little bit amount, you remember how much of a difference when I swapped from one to the other, the previous ones to the ones we're running now?
Yeah.
You remember that improvement?
Yeah.
I'm going to get that much improvement more.
Right on. So you decided you still don't like 7 Days to Die?
I've done some playing on it on a server. It's not my favorite.
That's a bummer. It's not a very good solo game. You have to be pretty hardcore to play it.
But once I get this other server up, and I move the main server off, and I've taken this test server down, that leaves almost the entire server empty. You get what I'm saying?
Well, you could.
Because the
What'd you?
so
Yeah.
so the plan I have is to offload the main server to the other server. No one will ever see the difference except for in quality of play. Then after that, I know why those other cores are firing up. That's because I'm running the test server over the unused cores on the main server. If that gives you an idea on how much they're actually being used. You get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Core?
Yeah.
So once I move the test server to becoming the live server, people are gonna, and they start coming back because they can play again. It'll free up this entire server basically. So the next server I want to open up is, you ever heard of the game The Front?
Yeah.
I've been playing that and I really want to host my own server. It's super new. And the only reason why I'd want to run it on a separate server than the Space Engineer server is because the Chinese are really attacking those servers. And that's why I would do it like that.
Yeah, we're on the verge of going to war again. So.
These are like your run-of-the-mill Chinese, just, they're not trying to fuck with people, they're trying to fuck with people, other servers, because they want to command all the servers for that game.
I get you. Yeah, the Chinese are like that.
Yeah, that's why a lot of those servers, if you have a Chinese name or you speak in the Chinese kanji, I believe it is, in the game, you will automatically be just, you'll just basically paint a giant target on your head. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I personally have joined other factions in raiding these Chinese bases. If you get what I'm saying. Like, they didn't care that I was also just pounding away at their base. When normally they don't like people joining them. In that game. Then, on top of that, this game is constantly getting updated. Like, in the last week, they have had to open up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 more servers for testing a new, like, feature, because they're filling up these test servers. The official servers alone have close to 5 to 10,000 players on right now, in the worst time for anyone to be actually playing.
Another way to wage war, I suppose.
Oh, that's the thing. Those servers are full of players playing right now. And the development team is very basically, imagine the best parts of Ark. Okay? The things you really like about Ark. Then, you ever play Rust?
No.
It's a similar game to the front. It's more like pseudo-future, but not that futuristic. Build from the bottom up kind of thing. Survival game. They took all the best parts of that game and threw it in the game. Then they went over to, like, what other games is it like? Basically every game in that genre, you can see where the developers liked a feature and brought it into this game. It's like, basically take everything that everyone likes about these different games and then adds them to it. Yesterday at 10 p.m. they did a update to the thing. The day before they did an update. The day before that they did an update. Like, every day they've updated the game for the last, like, 3 weeks. Last week and a half. Since it's launched. Impressive. Oh, and do you know who moderates the admins on their Discord is? The developers of the game.
Well, that's a little more reasonable.
The actual people working on the server have their personal Discord accounts tied to this game. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's gonna end up like Ark. I can already see it coming.
I don't think so. This is a passion project. But from a small studio that doesn't... that hates every... Hey, if it ends up like Ark, I just hope it don't end up like, what is it? Something by Light. Dead by, Dying... What's the game Ark got you into? Arch got you into.
I didn't understand the question.
What was the magic game like Ark that,
Dark and Light.
Dark and Light. As long as it doesn't end up like Dark and Light and other snail game, I'm perfectly fine with that. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah. Hold on for just a second. I'm gonna go get some coffee.
Okay.
I turned over the Space Engineer server to him and basically just started playing Darkness Falls and streaming. That's all. Haven't really been talking to anybody because everything's been going on. Okay, I'm back.
Oh, and Core. Do you want to know what makes this game better than Ark?
What's up?
One, the developers aren't asked. Two, this is early release, like alpha release, early beta. No, not even beta. They're not even calling it released for beta yet. And it runs better than Ark. There's more things to do than base game Ark. Sorry, and they're actually actively working on it. It's still in alpha, and the hiccups we see are either player caused garbage, like I'm destroying a 30-story building kind of thing, or it's it's just stuff you can write off, like, ooh, we had some lag. That was because the server was getting DDoS by the Chinese, and all it did was cause hiccuping. they already announced that there was going to be skins that players can apply to their weapons, stuff like that. But they already announced that it's going to be a couple months before that feature gets rolled out, because they don't want skins to become the way of the game. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't usually bother with skins.
And they're giving them away. Oh, you know what makes also the game better than Ark? What was Ark's launch price?
I think, well, I don't really know because I think it was gifted to me.
About $40 was its launch price. Guess how much this game launched at?
20.
16.
Oh, shit.
Because they made it on sale the day it released to early access.
Damn.
It's now 20 because it was like a 7-day sale.
Yeah. We actually have to buy a new car. Potentially.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, because Diana's Lincoln, the rear air shocks
Yeah.
blew, and it crushed.
Oh.
It crushed the exhaust pipe and busted the catalytic converter or the muffler. Not sure which. Not sure.
Well, if it does, and how much is that going to cost?
Probably around $1,500 or more, because the airbags.
And how much is the car worth?
The airbags are hella expensive.
Yeah, I understand that. But how much it would... So you said it was about $1,500 to fix it? And how much is the car worth?
It's a 1994 Lincoln Continental.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
1997
It's-
Lincoln Continental.
Oh, so it's not really worth dumping that much money in.
Not really. But right now they're wanting $20,000 for a 20-year-old car.
Not really. They're selling for about $800 to $1,000 here.
Yeah, there.
My fiance just bought a 1999 Buick LeSabre 6-cylinder for $800.
Yeah, I mean we have a few options. It's just getting those options to work.
Yep. My fiance, did I tell you about the motor? Or have we not spoken since before then?
Yeah, we haven't talked.
Okay,
for
so,
a week and a half.
about a week or two ago, my fiance was coming home from work, and they were driving down the road, and then all of a sudden the motor stopped. They pulled off to the side of the road and tried to restart it. It wouldn't start. So, I thought it probably was the alternator, since it really didn't, because it was an older car and it wasn't a new alternator, and it was like 2001, and it was the original alternator. I just assumed it was the alternator because I wasn't physically there. So, because of that, we tried to jump it, didn't work, so we had it towed to a garage. The timing belt went. On a scale from 1 to 10, after all that information I'd given you, how much of a What would be your
Well,
estimate
the timing
on?
belt's gonna cost you roughly $100, give or take. And
Yep.
then the labor's gonna be about 3 hours.
Remember, we tried to start it with the timing belt broken.
Yeah, I know. I understand how you have to index the crank and the cam after that.
Yeah,
And that, like I
the
said,
motor was
it's about
fucked.
3 hours.
Yeah, we had to redo. That's the thing. It's an interference motor.
Okay, so that went up to about 7 hours.
We'd have to re-hone all the cylinders, replace all the pistons,
No, you won't.
because the valves got jammed into the head.
Oh, okay. Then it's one of those sideways motors. Okay,
Yes.
okay, I understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have a weird angle with the valves.
Yeah. It's one of the. It comes in from the. It's a front wheel drive, 2001. What was the car?
Yeah, so
Saturn.
you're talking around 3,500 or so.
Yeah. How much do you think that car was worth?
About $1,000 maybe.
So it really wasn't worth us paying 3 times the price for a car that's worth about $1,000.
Well, see, from what I know of the Lincoln, okay, it's a Police Interceptor V8.
Yep.
Okay, that's in there, and that thing has some flat giddy up go.
Yep.
It's not as powerful as the Mustang as far as being long-legged, but it is quicker off
Yep.
the line than the Mustang. It just runs out of steam a lot faster.
Oh, and also, yeah, it's one of those interference V4 engines that we turned over with a broken timing belt after it drove down the road for a little bit. So we'd have to hone the cylinders, or
Yeah,
put in
it's a complete
cylinder
rebuild.
sleeve.
Yeah, it's a complete rebuild.
Yeah, or replace the motor. And no matter how we skinned the cat, it was going to be more than $1,000. So we had 800 some odd dollars. We had about $1,000 that we could have paid into it. Found a car that works. It's not my fiance's forever car.
Now, see, my problem, I know how to fix Diana's car. The problem is I can't. I'm not physically
Yep.
capable. If I was
Yep.
physically capable, I'd be out there and it'd be fixed already if we had the money. It's the same reason why I haven't fixed my trucks. I just can't do it.
Yep.
I have the knowledge and ability, just not the capability.
Oh, did I also mention that they twisted the subframe under the motor beforehand? Which probably is what killed the timing belt that never got replaced at the 150,000 mark.
It's entirely possible.
My opinion is it probably finished the job of something that was already going bad. So, since it probably ran either partially broken or skipping teeth here and there for a very long time, it need the amount of work. I could have done the work, physically done the work, if I had the tools, the time, and everything to do it. But there was 3 issues with that. 1, I didn't have the tools to do it. The 1, I didn't have the tools. 2, my fiance needed a car to get to and from work. And, like, now. And 3, I didn't have the money to buy the parts that I need to do the rebuild. Parts or metal, or no matter how I skinned it, I needed money to buy material to do the job. Like, I can hand cut, hand mill out, what is it? I know how to hand mill head. Like, I could have done the job and honed it and all that. But we needed a car yesterday at that point. And the price was right, it was nearby, and my car is basically on its last leg to start with. Because it needs thousands in work.
Yeah, see, that kind of thing it's never a problem as far as the knowledge goes. It's just, I don't have the physical ability to be able to lay down and use my arms to turn wrenches and that kind of stuff anymore. I just can't physically do it.
I have the ability to do it. I just don't have the tools, time, and money. I do have the time. Sorry, I don't have the tools and the money to do it. I can do a lot of things. I've trained under a master machinist, so I don't think honing heads and all... Yes, it's an art form, but I don't think it would be that hard, because I've done mil-spec work.
I learned how to do it without machinery.
See, I'd do it with machinery, because I don't trust my hands enough to do anything by hand.
That's what most people don't understand about today's so-called gunsmiths or mechanics. They're mostly technicians.
Yeah.
Okay? What you would call a mechanic today is now called an engineer.
Yep.
I learned how to hand lap valves, valve stems.
Lapping I could do.
Kind of stuff. How to port heads with emery cloth, steel wool, and a hand grinder, and
Yep.
the Dremel tool. I learned how to do flow porting with heads with a Dremel tool. I'm a redneck mechanic, which means I can use duct tape to fix just about anything for a while.
Yep. Hey, I still think the best fix I ever did that pissed off somebody was my ex actually, their radiator, you know the new radiators that have the plastic top, plastic bottom, metal middle?
Yeah.
The plastic top cracked because it got old.
Oh yeah, duct tape.
And no, JB Weld.
I've done that too.
I convinced my ex, because we were just by a O'Reilly's. We didn't have the money to fix radiator at that time, and I said, "Fuck it." Grabbed the stick JB Weld. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And JB welded up the radiator, get us home. Because I was visiting. We drove with that car everywhere, not a single issue with the radiator, or cooling, or anything like that. About 6 months later, my ex was on the phone and said, "Well, my radiator blew up." Like, when it blew up, it blew the bottom of the radiator off. The plastic bottom just completely blew it off. It's like, okay. At that point, but they got 6 months of use out of my JB Weld, and it pissed their father off that I did that to the radiator. Then I asked him, "How would you fix it?" We were 3/4 of the way across town, and that stick of JB Weld allows, in a gallon of coolant, allowed us to drive home, and my ex to drive around for 6 months. Where did we lose? I told my ex, this is kicking the can down the road.
Well, yeah. And it's that kind of thing that has won me a lot of street races.
You only need to make it down that quarter mile. It doesn't mean that the thing has to be in one piece when you get to the other end.
Just as long as you cross the line first.
And that's what a lot of people today don't realize. It doesn't matter if it's at one piece at the other end.
Because every race, if you're going to race, you're basically taking a chance on destroying your entire car. So,
Oh, yeah.
if you're not cash up front, winner takes all kind of thing, then you shouldn't be street racing.
Nope.
You know, I have never lost a race either. Street racing. I had a
Wow.
I had a Corvette. It was the first 1980 Ford F-250 that my dad built for me.
Yep.
And it was 4-wheel drive, and he had put Daytona lockers and a Warren hitch on it, and a Dyna transfer case for the running.
Yep.
And it had a 460, and it I don't know what he did to it, but it had 427 heads on it, and it would steadily underload or not max out at about 8,200 RPM, but it'd run there all day long without a hitch. And this yellow Corvette came up next to me, and he looked at me, and he's showing off. He was one of those cocky beach boys kind of thing. So I just tapped the gas pedal on the truck, but I had cutouts. So before I did it, I pulled on the cable for the cutouts, revved up the engine, and he revved up his engine, and before he got through the intersection, I was already 2 blocks ahead of him. And the thing that I didn't know about it is that was the Oceano police chief. And he knew me and he knew my dad. So he promptly called my dad and he said, "Tell your boy to knock it off." And I come home and my dad's sitting in his chair smoking a cigarette, just shaking his head back and forth, He says, "What did you do?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Something about a yellow Corvette." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." But my dad is a street racer too.
Yep.
So, and my dad was used to train his
My
guys in
yep.
hand-to-hand combat, and that kind of thing.
My grandfather used to play a game with his friend. He had what are those locking brakes that will not let your tires? Is that a trans brake or? I'm not sure what the brake is. Where you can rev up your motor, drop the clutch, and then all of a sudden you get all the traction in the world, kind of thing.
I don't remember what they're called.
But you know which type of brake system I'm talking about. Quad lockers or something like that. But anyways,
Well,
his favorite game.
Bars, wheelie bars. There's a couple others. I can't remember all of them.
It's not a wheelie. It's literally just it's a brake system. He had it in his car, and his favorite thing to do back in like the '80s is he would take $100 bill out of his wallet, put it on the dash, with a little bit of, where he kept a piece of tape, and he says, "If you can grab that $100 bill off the dash between first and second gear, it's yours." You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I've done that. My dad had a Nova that was like that. See, my dad, he was a drag racer. I'm not a drag racer. I'm a road racer. Um, think of the the races that go in through towns and stuff like that in Europe.
Yep.
That's the kind of racing that I did, and I usually did it in backcountry roads and through ghost towns and stuff like that. We're talking
My brother.
sometimes 300-mile races.
Yeah, you showed me the circuit that you did.
Yeah, those, and I did some circle track racing in California and in
Yep.
Idaho. But after Idaho, I had a bit of an accident after I went back to California with my '78 Camaro race car, and it just became bothersome. I was working underneath the suspension, and I told Darlene
Yep.
not to lean on the car because it was
Leaning on the
unstable.
car.
And what she do? She bumps the car with
Le-
her fat ass, and
Oh.
it slips off the jack, and it pins my arm underneath the right rear wheel, right rear wheel,
Oh.
and well, it was the brake drum actually, because I had the rear wheels on.
Yeah.
And it's starting to cut into my forearm, but my hand's pinned, and I can't move, and I'm under the car.
Yep.
The pumpkin was
Yep.
touching my forehead.
Oh.
Okay, so it was that bad, and my dad just happened to pull up, and
As that happened.
right after it happened,
Oh.
and I told my dad, I said, "Dad, get this car off me. It's killing me because it's crushing my skull."
Yep.
And Darlene said she didn't know where the other floor jack was, and she was standing right next to it. So my dad just walks over to the back of the '78 Camaro, squats down,
Yep.
lifts it up off me, and I slid out, and then he let it down.
Yep.
He didn't say a word, but he stayed over at our house for about a week because he hurt himself. He hurt his back really bad.
Yeah.
And we took care of him, that kind of thing. But after that, that was the last time I really did any racing, and my dad tried to get me back into it a few years later. In 2000, we started. We were actually, it was 1998. We started working on a '67 Cougar XR7.
Yep.
And that was the one where the lady, just when we were starting to do the body work, the lady in a Cadillac Escalade rear-ended him after we had put like $180,000 into the car over a
Yep.
2-year period. And we salvaged all the pieces we could, cut the Cougar into pieces, and sold it for scrap. And then we found a Mustang that somebody had used for a drag racer, at a little 302 that was pumped pumped up pretty good, and it was fast. But he did the old mechanics trick of tightening down the frame or the motor mounts with chain instead of bolts.
Yep.
Because the engine was too strong for the bolts. So he welded like 2 or 3 wraps of chain link around it and then welded it to the frame and all this other stuff. Well, we went and picked up the Mustang, and along the way we had to stop because there were hoses and stuff that were old, so the radiator was leaking and stuff like that. Well, this truck, some diesel truck, pulled up next to the Mustang while I'm driving it. My dad's behind me, and my dad and I got CBs because before we made the trip, we installed a CB in the Mustang, and he had a CB in his truck. And he told me, he says, "Son, it looks like that truck wants to race." He says, "If you feel comfortable, do it. I know I would." I said, "Okay." So I hit the gas, and he hit the gas, and it wasn't, I don't know, 30 seconds, and I'm 3 mile markers ahead of him. Right? And I hadn't even floored it. I just slowly stepped down on the gas pedal. Well, he catches up to me, and I wait for my dad to catch up to me. And the passenger rolls down the window in the truck, and he says, "Holy fuck." He says, "How fast will that thing go?" I said, "I don't know. Let's find out." I floored it. I got about 5 car lengths in front of the truck, and the Mustang spun like 5 times because I lost traction. And I ended up facing the right direction, but in the left lane. So I pulled over, the truck pulled over, my dad followed me, and he pulled up behind me. And yeah, I ended up driving back to our house, which was like 3 hours away, and getting the engine hoist, the 351 Cleveland, the transmission, and the driveline from the Cougar and the radiator. Because the chain links broke, and it jammed in between the fan and the radiator.
Yep.
And twisted the driveline. So
see,
even though
my brother once,
even though it pushed back the rear end about 2.5 inches, there was still just enough clearance with the tires that were on the Mustang to make it workable. It looked a little weird, but right there.
How long was the drive shaft?
We changed engines, we changed transmissions, we adjusted the rear end, we took care of the rear suspension, and we even put a Mustang 2 power steering in it, independent suspension.
Yep.
Right there on the side of the road. And we drove it home. We drove it like that for, I don't know, almost a year before we decided to rebuild the other 351. And we had it professionally done in a shop instead of doing it ourselves.
Yep. I had one guy. Okay, so my brother one day, this is the only time my brother ever told me he was going to be late for work. Okay? He had just started this job maybe a couple weeks before. He was too young to get his license, but he was working this under the table job. So he tells me, I need a ride. I'm gonna be late. I need. So me, who was working nights at the time, hadn't quite gone to bed yet. Got up, threw my clothes on, told him to get in the car and buckle up. I took this one corner at like 65 miles an hour, this hairpin turn, sideways in a front-wheel drive vehicle.
I've done stupid shit like that.
Now, I was maybe... If my brother had his hand on the door sill, it would have touched the stone. That... Between the... Because basically the road was cut into this hill, taking this route I was taking. My brother was 5 minutes early to work. My brother never again has been late for work in his life.
Give me a second, I take a bob break. That's funny.
Go for this. Of course, it's kind of interesting that you're laughing because you have a pain in the ass. I'm not quite sure how to take that. But yeah. And I've only been in two wrecks in my life. One time, I was racing someone else's car, and I wasn't as familiar with the car as I should have been with what I was making the car do. Then, on top of that, I was, and I just rolled the car. The second time, I was late for work, and I was trying to make up time in every place I could. I was cruising right along, and then there was a dead raccoon in the middle of the road. My car was a little low, and to avoid hitting the thing, I decided to straddle it. It was a dirt road with some loose gravel. The ass end whipped around. I almost rolled that car. Like I had it up on two wheels. It's like, oh, here we go. Almost rolled my car. I had one wheel. Not even the wheel that I was up on the side of that cut, twisted out underneath the car at like a 45-degree angle. Under the car. And I was only 2.5 hours late for work. And when I told my boss what had happened that morning, he says, "And you came to work and worked all day today." Yeah. I told you I was just gonna be late.
Yeah, I lost a girlfriend because I wrecked my car on the way to her house. She told me if I was ever late again to a date, that she was going to break up with me. And on the way, bye, hon, have a good day. And on the way, or before I left work, they asked me to stay over, and I knew it took me 21 minutes at normal speed to get to her house, but I had 10 minutes to get to her house. So that's basically why I wrecked my Capri. That was the very first car I'd ever bought for myself. It was a 1976 Mercury Capri with a 302 Boss in it. That's basically a 289 with 351 Cleveland heads on it. With the adapter plate, of course. But I hit the road reflector, my front tires hit sand, and that was it. I went off the embankment. If it wasn't for the 3 strands of barbed wire fencing that got wrapped up inside the wheel well, 100-foot drop straight down.
Oof.
And I had a metal toolbox that broke out of the hatchback and somehow ended up coming back in to the passenger side or the driver's side rear seat window, you know, that little triangle thing, and hit me in the back of the head and knocked me out.
Wow.
Broke the seat belt, and it was the cross your chest and crossed your waist. I broke it in 2 places just past the buckle, broke the straps at the waist and on the shoulder, about 3 inches apart from each other.
Wow.
And I had just filled the tank with gas, just got insurance, just bought a carton of cigarettes, and got my fleece-lined Levi jacket that I'd been wanting for a while. And I had about $300 in my pocket left after all of that. So I filled up all the pockets in the Levi jacket with cigarettes because I was out in the middle of nowhere, and grabbed my knife, grabbed my survival kit, and walked down the road and ended up coming across some people that were making out in their car, and they told me to get the fuck lost. And then I put my hand on my head and put my bloody hand on their window, and I said, "I need help. I'm hurt. I just had a car wreck. Can you at least take me to Los Olivos? It's only about 12 minutes down the road. Just follow this road, you can drop me off, and I can go from there." Well, somehow or another, I made it to Los Olivos. I sat down on the bench right next to City Hall, and I woke up in the hospital. 3 days, 4 days later, we went back and picked up the Capri and took it over to my mom's house because my dad, he didn't have a place that he could store it. And I stayed with my mom until I was able to buy another vehicle, and I converted the Capri into a dune buggy because the top was crushed. I mean,
Yep.
it was absolutely crushed. So I ended up cutting out the fender wells in the rear and putting on paddle wheels, the big rubber paddle tires for sand.
Yep.
And we used that. It's still probably out in the sand dunes somewhere because we ran out of gas and just left it there. I only paid $783 for the Capri because it had a blown head gasket, and the guy didn't want it anymore because he'd gotten himself like a Camaro or a Nova or something like that, or a Maverick, maybe a Pinto, I don't remember. But yeah, it was after that I decided that I wanted to go to Idaho and start racing. Didn't make it there right away. There was like a 5-year time span because I ended up going to Idaho and then coming back to help my mom. Went back to Idaho, or went to Indiana, where my son was born. And then that didn't quite work out as planned, so I made my way back to California. Met my ex-wife, went back to Idaho, started working for Lamb Weston and opened up my first computer store.
Yep.
And then from there, my dad called, so I ended up going back to California. And in 2003, my dad and I, we moved to Roseburg, Oregon. And then in 2012, we moved to Bandon, Oregon. So that's... Thanks for helping me remember. I appreciate that.
Yep. This sucks. It takes a 2-man team to actually do anything on this server because there's so many active players, and I'm really not the greatest at PvP.
Yeah, I'm not either.
And I don't. And this is a PvP server. So. Yeah, I'm gonna get off for the night or the morning,
Yeah,
because there's no point in me playing that game, because I need it second person to get on.
yes, that's the thing. I never liked PvP.
I'm okay at PvP. I'm a great support person in games. You've played with me. There was one time that we teamed up in a faction in Space Engineers.
Oh yeah.
It's just we ran away so fast in the game that it was kind of boring. Because I had you fed with so much supplies that it didn't matter.
Well, yeah. See, I was used to doing all that stuff by myself because most people didn't know how
Yep.
to play the game like I did, and they didn't know how to set themselves up properly. And then by the time they did get that way, I was so far ahead that I didn't need anybody's help.
Yep.
Everybody wanted to do it themselves, so it's like, okay, fine, no worries.
Yeah. I remember us playing together in a faction once, and we agreed never to do it again because there was no point in us playing together.
Yeah, because everything was just too damn easy.
Oh yeah, because I knew how to gather resources. As long as you kept, I had enough supplies to build a couple throwaway ships. Throwaway ship. You remember all the ships I use. You've seen them. They're the same kind of ships I use. They work. They do their job. That's all they need to do. They don't need to do everything. They just need to do. I need 2 or 3 ships to do 2 or 3 different jobs. That's it.
Or one ship that
I
has
have-
the ability to do everything.
Yeah, I don't like that. Never cared to do that because that makes the welder ship too big. And it makes the grinder ship too big to do it. To do its job. So mining,
Well, see, that's why oftentimes I'll go to a vanilla game and I'll create
Yep.
a new blueprint for a ship because I'll put my tools on rotors, just rotors and hinges, and it'll make the ships kind of blocky, but they work.
see, I don't care about a ship how it looks, but I like smaller, lighter, because every block could be more storage for most of my use cases. Like, I need a miner. I want that miner to have a shit ton of storage. I don't care if it welds and grinds. Or even shoot. I just wanted to go out there, pick up all these ores, be fully loaded, and guarantee I'm not going to turn it into paste on the planet if I don't fuck up. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all that matters. As long as it doesn't turn to paste when I enter atmosphere. Or if I'm not going to enter atmosphere, it's just not going to float away because it can't change its momentum fast.
This is a very bizarre place.
Have you tried playing on the test server?
Hold on a second.
Oh.
Had a cat that was trying to get into a box and started knocking down all kinds of bottles.
Mhm.
Very odd place.
So, Core, have you even looked at the test server?
No, I haven't played Space Engineers in about a week and a half.
Okay. Well, you'll be excited for the new
Got the best
pack.
places in the
It's
wasteland.
definitely going to be different. And there's going to be a lot more to explore and things to do. That's the things to do and things to explore is the theme that I would. You get what I'm saying? For?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, there's going to be 13 planets that I've picked out. And one of them, I think you're going to have a fun time with. Instead of it being cold or low atmosphere, it's got triple gravity, but it's also a hot planet. So effectively, that planet, it wears down your climate, your batteries, like it would in low oxygen or cold planets. But it also burns up fuel faster. Let me see if I can quickly find that mod to give you the details on that planet. There's the test server mod. Sort by name because no, that's the solar system mod. And the pack only has 78 mods at this time. I trimmed a lot of bloat stuff from the pack, the previous pack. Grabbed the ones that I deemed were like the essential stuff to keep the flavor of the server, you know what I'm saying, the style. But I trimmed a lot of the redundant things out. Like, you don't need 8 different things that do the exact same thing. Yes, they might look a little bit different, but most players tend to settle on like one thing that everybody uses because it works. Oh, I also added a concrete tool, which allows players to place voxels in survival mode.
Interesting.
I figured, hey, you can't find that asteroid that looks exactly like the one you want? Build it yourself.